There's going, guys. Thanks for checking out another video of mine. So first of all, this video is a remake of the previous killer tier list I made, which is based all around the subjective view of what I find most fun to face. So of course, this list is going to be completely different to lists that you probably make yourself, or lists that you'd probably expect me to be making. It's not about the power of the character or anything like that. Of course, some things like that do come into it, but it's a very wide, broad, and subjective opinion. This it's purely based around the fun, and that's it. And secondly, I got halfway through this video, and it was quite good. And then I realised partway through that I didn't have my microphone working. That was fun. So yeah, we're going to do this all again, pretty much, and hopefully you'll enjoy. Right, we're going to start off in the order that we did. Is a slightly different order to what I started off before. We're going to actually start off with the twins. The twins is going to be probably the benchmark now for what I'm going to pick as good or bad. Twins is a C tier fun killer for me. I dislike them. I think people don't allow themselves to open their mind to what they can do. I think it's people who play twins are typically very narrow-minded with the power. They see the fact that you can use two killers, kind of have one stationary nearby to a hook, and there's sort of like proxy camp with it. It's a go-to. It's a very bare, basic, minimal thought process play style that I don't enjoy or respect, and 9 times out of 10 the twins player will be running that kind of concept. There are some good twins players out there. If I talk about twins, I always bring up Lynxie. Lynx is an amazing twins player. Do go check her out. Amazing. Yeah, she's great. And she shows you how to play the twins very, very well. Goes for some really dynamic like plays, trying to do like long range Victor leaps from different locations. Really fun to watch. Great to face if you actually do face somebody who plays like I've only done it once before, and it's actually a really fun game. Get to show what the killer is capable of in the right hands. And then next up, again, it's gonna be the benchmark for what bad is. Trickster is D tier for me. I don't find them particularly difficult to face. It's just the fact that I don't like what they bring to Dead by Daylight. They're a ranged killer, but rather than like say Huntress, where I enjoy dodging the hatchets, this guy just barrages with knives, and I find it very like uninspired. I find it very dull, boring. It's more of a tower defense game when I'm facing Trickster than Dead by Daylight to me. I just find him dull because when you're being chased by him, it's just like, okay, have I got any like high walls or anything go behind? Like, oh wow, he's throwing knives at me. How entertaining, how fun. You know, typically find you in some terrible location because my luck stinks, and you just go in side to side hoping that you can avoid some daggers being thrown at you and stuff like that. I mean, there's stuff you can do, you know, line of sight blockers like you do against nurses are great against him and stuff like that. But generally, no, I mean, most of the Trickster players I face just come straight to hook anyway, and then he's just like as you're unhooking somebody or something like that. Don't find him fun. That's my opinion. Don't find him fun. Blight next. We're going to put Blight as probably a B tier. I had him lower before. Even 5 minutes ago, he was actually in C tier. I'm going to put him in B tier because I think it's a little bit unfair on him. He's in B tier because I dislike him, even though he does a lot of things that I think are good for the game. He's like his high interaction. If it's a good Blight player and they've like learnt the abilities of the character well, they can outplay you. So that's something I like as well. Is if someone's good to the character, they can do well, and if you're good against them, you can do well as well. But I lost a lot of respect to him because he can do a lot of the things that one of the top tier killers, I'll tell you in a bit, for me, does, which is like curve around objects, but it's come from a bad place to me. So Blight to me was very unique when he got released. He's a pinball based killer, which is like a straight line, bounce for an object, and then try and hit you or something like that. You know, that's the sort of concept he was doing. But then people learned that you could J flick, which is when you put your mouse up high sensitivity, as high as you can go. And if you swung at the right time, did the right inputs, you could like basically curve around corners and hit people that you shouldn't be able to hit as Blight. So the devs in their infinite wisdom go, okay, that's a little bit unfair to let people flick around corners like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to allow everybody to curve around corners to compensate. So you can no longer J-flick around corners, but instead of straight line killer, which he was before, we're going to let everybody curve now. So Blight became basically a better version of Hillbilly, in my opinion, where you can, rather than going straight lines, you could actually just bend around corners now. Objects that only like Hillbilly and Oni could get around and hit you from, now Blight can do it as well. And he's got a constant cooldown. Yeah, he hasn't got a cooldown like Billy where you can use it for a set amount of time, otherwise boo-hoo, no, you can't use that fun ability anymore. No, Blight can keep on doing it pretty much. His cooldown's immensely small, doesn't take him long to recharge it, and he's just right back on you. Again, I find him unfun in that respect. I think like the uniqueness of the killer just completely went out the window. They went, okay, we've got a really fun killer right now called Hillbilly. He's in the game from the start, but instead we're going to make this killer better than him entirely. In every single way imaginable, Blight's going to be better than Hillbilly, apart from one hit downs, and that's the only thing that Blight doesn't have over Billy. That's what he's B for. It's basically, it should be fun, it should be higher tier, but I completely lost respect for the way the devs went with the killer. I'd rather have unique killers than just sort of just give the players stuff. Make them unique, make them difficult to play, but then the top tier people who play that character can reap the benefits of people going, very well done, you're actually really good at the game, congratulations. I like the fact I like high skill ceilings, you know. I like people being rewarded for hard effort and work to master that killer, and I love unique killers. Blight to me isn't unique anymore. He lost that title a long time ago. Hag is next, going to put him a C. People who've been around my channel long enough will know that I used to play Hag quite a bit, made 3 guides. Probably outdated, probably lacking that quality edge to them that you might find on other guides, but they are there. So really, you'd think I'd like her, you know, I'd have some respect for her, but I don't. I have respect for her power and stuff like that, but I play a lot of solo queue, so subjectively, from the way I play and the people I play with and stuff like that, Hag absolutely shreds through uncoordinated teams. I don't play with flashlights very often, so straight away I'm at a loss. I play a lot of different unique builds, so straight away, if I get like, you know, teleported on by the Hag, I'm usually not running many beneficial perks for me to deal with that. And yeah, she can lock down areas, can make it very difficult to unhook and stuff like that. She slows down the game a lot because of her power. Yeah, very difficult to face when you're not coordinated with a team, which I very rarely am. So Hag for me is a C tier based upon my my games against her. Pyramid Head next, going to put him like a B. Running trend with these kind of killers. If a killer is able to hold M2 and not really get punished for it and wait to see whether you do an animation or whether you try and bait it and then go for the M1 after. If a killer can do that, I tend to drop them down a little bit because I just find that ability to do that a little bit, I understand why they can do it for, don't get me wrong, but that is kind of a bit of an annoying thing for me. But there are killers that I do rate higher than Pyramid Head, so I don't think that's the baseline now, because he's not. I just find Pyramid Head a B tier, just because, well, I don't really know. Maybe it's is the aesthetic of the killer, or maybe it's just the gangs of face against him. I think that might well be it. It might just be that inbuilt subconscious memory of the games I've had with Pyramid Heads, and typically my memories from Pyramid Head come back to like killers coming straight back to the hook when you're kind of unhooking. You kind of let them go away, but you start to unhook it, and then Pyramid Head's kind of already coming back, and he's already like, you know, hold his M2 ready to try and down 2 people at the hook at the same time and stuff like that. Bring them into a B tier for me, so that's where he kind of is. We've got Nemesis next. Is another hold M2 elate after M1 kind of killer. We're going to put him in A though. Nemesis is A. He's above Pyramid Head for me, which for a lot of people it's the other way around. A lot of people prefer Pyramid Head. But for me, Nemesis is more fun, purely because you can't hit more than one person at a time. I like the zombie aspects to it. I think that adds a lot to the game. It's great fun. I like his chase music. And typically, I'm fairly decent at like baiting his tentacle hits. So I can usually keep him in tier 1 for a bit longer, as long as I've got a decent RNG and stuff like that. So for me, I feel like I play better against a Nemesis than I play against a Pyramid Head, personally speaking. Doctor's next, probably like a B. He's like, you know, don't dislike him, don't particularly like him either. When I face him, I tend to feel like I have a good chance at winning the game. If they play well, they've got a good chance at killing me. So I think it's kind of a fair fight. A good Doctor's able to really lock down those loops and stuff like that. Anyone need a little bit less experience, no, you can usually loop normally. A good Doctor, you need to kind of pre-drop a lot of pallets and play it kind of safe. But I find him fairly fun, I ain't gonna lie. I'll put him as a B there because he just does a few things that can bring it down there. I mean, I faced one yesterday where he's like the old impossible skill check Doctor who's basically slammed on every single perk that would make doing generators difficult and stuck us on the game at the same time. Very dull, very boring game that lasted, actually, I think it must have lasted about 15-20 minutes longer. I bet say longer than I expected, but no, it was about 15-20 minutes maybe overall. And even though I tried to convince him to kill me because of the death hook, he wouldn't do it. He just kind of left me in the game, started slugging me and stuff like that. It's a very dull and boring game, but that hasn't made me put him in B. I just think he's B in general. That game had no bearing on it. We've got Spirit next, and Spirit... Oh God, it's a tricky one because lately I've actually quite enjoyed playing against... I'm going to put an S tier. This is going to be very controversial. Which like 5-10 minutes ago when I started making the previous video. But yeah, some of the points I made, I just find it fun. I think you can mind game against her. You can use audio against her, just like she can use audio against you. But I like the fact that she's strong. But if you play well, you can do well against her. I think it really, really sets a tone for if you want to be a good survivor player. Spirit's actually really good to face because she really makes you think. She makes you think outside the box. She makes you try and face the player rather than the killer. Like a lot of these, you're facing the killer design. Like Hag, you're facing the mechanics of the killer. You know, like Nemesis, again, you're facing the mechanics of the killer. Spirit, there's a certain level of mind game there between the both of you. You know, you're outthinking the player more than you're outthinking the mechanic. Of course, you're trying to outthink the mechanic, but you're trying to think where she's going, what she's doing. You're looking out for the grass, whether it's moving. You're trying to think what she's thinking you're doing. It's like a constant game going on. You know, if you get to like an LT wall and she's phasing, it's like, all right, do I bait the vault? Do I vault it and then slow vault back over it? And you know, there's so many dynamic, fun aspects to being in a chase with the Spirit that I think a lot of people overlook. I think a lot of people think mechanically what Spirit can do. Whereas, all right, I'm injured, so if the Spirit's chase me, there's not much I can do, which can be a fair point. But for me, I think there's a lot of fun potential there to outthink and outplay that player itself rather than just the mechanics of the killer, which I like. Pinhead is a D. Is doo-doo. That's why he's in D4. No, Pinhead is one of those characters where, like the twins, people just sort of like, or Hag as well, people just go, okay, that's the mechanic of the killer. I know the exact, their basic way to play this as scummy as I possibly can. And they'll go out the way and just do it. And I have no qualms in them doing that as such because they are using it the most efficient way you can possibly can. But I find it a little bit rough. I also find, like, I don't think you see it as much now because Ruin has been nerfed, but a lot of people used to do, like, stick Ruin on him, Undying. And then when the chain hunt started, you just literally could not work on a generator because the chains would just, like, rip you off there and then they would start regressing. And then by the time you get back on there, you can't really... I've had that a few times and it was the most boring games I've ever had on Dead by Daylight, and it's all because of the killer mechanics. I don't dislike the players playing Pinhead, but I think some of the things that come from a character like that, they just sort of like just do gen regression all the time. Pinhead characters do. They try and delay the game as much as they possibly can, and as much as I respect their opinion of what they find fun, because they're not entitled to make our lives fun as survivor players. No, not at all. But because the mechanics of the killer make people want to go that route so much, I just naturally dislike him. So he's a D tier. When I see him, I kind of sigh inside. Don't enjoy him at all. So yeah, he's going to be a D tier killer. Onryō next. C tier. She's weak for a start. But then when they are strong, it can be very irritating. I faced one recently on RPD. What maybe a bit more coordination and the team playing a little bit better would have been fine, but they just kept on teleporting back and forward to like generators, using gen regression to really knock those generators down when they caught people. They'd just go do hit and run, and they're going for the condemn stacks all the time, which is fair play. They was playing them well. But seeing that in play, and then also seeing less experienced Onryōs and getting demolished by people like games I've been in as well, they left me like a C tier because I haven't really enjoyed the games. They've either lasted really, really short time, or they've gone way beyond what I think a healthy game time is for me as a survivor player. But they're down to like a C tier, purely based on that. We'll move on. I can't really say more about that. Dredge next. Dredge is a C tier, and unlike a lot of these where I'm talking about gameplay mechanics, I just find his aesthetic, like the sound effects and a lot of parts, just unfun to like see, hear, and like, you know, go through. I don't find the killers look interesting. I don't find it engaging. I don't find it scary, anything like that. He's just a mutated squid turkey, and I don't find that a fun thing to look at. His power, they just sort of like, you just see him like they just go, all right, that's a loop. I'll put this teleport location midway around the loop, and then we'll chase you, and then I'll decide with teleport. Not an engaging, fun concept for me personally. I don't find it fun. So no, he's like at a C tier for me. There's like, it's too many irritating aspects to him that I don't enjoy. Wesker next. We're going to break this down into two parts. You've got the Wesker that you face every now and then, and that's going to be the main thing we do. Is his power fun to face if you're not facing every single game? Yeah, it is. S tier. Is Wesker fun to face when you're seeing him pretty much nearly every game? No, he's not. Wesker, we'll go with what we should be. We're going to go for a very unbiased view of Wesker now. Wesker is a very fun killer, which allows you to do counterplay against him with a fair, what I would say, a fair hitbox. I don't have any qualms with his hitbox. You can bait him into going one way, juke him the other way. You can run him around fairly decently if you're good at the game and you outthink him. It requires a few like pre-drop pallets and stuff like that, but generally speaking, he's fun. Got a lot of cool voice lines which make him even more fun and engaging. Visually, great, amazingly well-made killer there from Resident Evil. Great, I love him. So yeah, we'll put him as S tier. Of course, if you want to bring in how often you face him, drop him down, but now, one by a few, S tier for me. Legend. Next. Two mindsets from me. Do I want to meme that game? If I do, Legion's like S tier. Give it me, man. If I want to play it seriously, he's more like a C tier. I say here, of course, you can play as any gender you want. But yeah, he's more like, for me, probably like B tier. Depends on what they want to do, how they want to play the game. There's a lot of variables to a Legion player, but generally speaking. I'd probably put him right there. Yeah, I mean, like when I want to meme around, you've got that potential to flop on him, which is amazing. You know, if you don't know what flopping is, you let him hit you, get him in deep wound, and you let that timer drop down to it's like the most tiniest part you possibly can do. When the Legion comes back towards you, you sort of go into like a bit of a, either like a small chase or you run right towards him, and then before he swings, you release your sprint button and you flop on the floor, and then the Legion just like swings through you, doesn't even hit you. You basically took the hit for yourself. You killed yourself. The Legion didn't do it. You did. So yeah. Plague next. Plague is sort of like a C tier for me. Maybe a B. I don't know, just something about Plague I've never really enjoyed. I think it's a concept that she has the potential of giving you 0 perks even though you put them on. Potential of taking away an entire item from you. I don't like that. I understand why they put that in the game. But I think I've always been a big anti-hard counter advocate. I hate anything that hard counters something. So, for context, right, I moaned about when they changed Lightborn. I think before Lightborn gave you resistance to flashlights. So technically, you could still get flashlight blinded with Lightborn before, but they changed it, so now you can never get blinded. And I found that really strange, how you're hard countering something. So before, I believe, if I remember right, at the old Lightborn, you could like have a team of people like, with flashlights, and if you all group used teamwork together, you could have got a flashlight save if you use teamwork. With new Lightborn, you can't do that. So before it was a soft counter, where there's potential for you still to get blinded. And I'm guessing like something like Blastblind would still work against the old Lightborn. But new Lightborn, no, hard counter. I don't like hard counters. Never have, never will. Plague hard counters, healing builds, hard counters, med kits. I don't find that fun. When I play against her, I don't see the killer as she's designed and should be seen as. I see her as someone that takes away people's perks and stuff like that. And I don't find that enjoyable or fun. Aesthetically, she's a really like nice looking killer though. Range killer, which adds a bit of dynamic fun to chases. But most games, again, with good survivor players with you in a team, you'll just not heal up and it's just an M1 killer that can insta down you. That's what you see. Nurse. Oh man, Nurse is so tricky. Depends on the day, depends on how I'm playing. There's a lot of variables. I'd probably say like B tier. Oh god, Nurse. It's a tricky one, man. It could so easily be S tier, it could so easily be D tier. It just depends on what the nerfs you're facing, how you're playing on the day, what map you're having, what RNG you got. So many variables to whether a Nurse is fun or not. She adds a different dynamic to chases. You know, it makes you think a bit more. You can have a lot of like mind games, like thinking and doing things that you might do like with Spirit, who's an S tier for me. But now she just does. She breaks the laws of physics too much for my liking, and it just makes game very predictable if she's a good Nurse player. So no, as a solo queue player, she just goes through them like a hot knife through butter. So we're like B tier. I have, yeah, I've got more games that I've not had fun in more like higher tier games. There's more games that I haven't had fun in the top, not the top tier, but the higher tier levels than I've had fun against a Nurse. So I'll probably say B. Okay, I think that's a fair one. Right, Ghostface next, probably like A tier. I think he does a lot of stuff that are fun. You know, there's a lot of dynamic parts to him. You can emote and stuff like that. You know what kind of play you're dealing with. Very like kind of like, you know, up and down. Yeah, I like him. Stealth killer, so he can jump scare you a little bit. But he's basically an M1 killer, so you can have a lot of fun chase with him as well. It doesn't break the game. Demo next. I'm going to put him with like A tier. So like along with Nemesis, he can do that M2, M1, but I love his aesthetic. I love Stranger Things, so a little bit of bias here as well. The fact they can teleport around means you can see him a lot as well. You get a lot of interaction with the killer. Does a lot right. Man, if you're good at the game, and they're good at the game, there's that chance of that 50-50 dynamic, you know. with shreds and stuff like that, he can potentially down you by playing well, and you can potentially outplay him if you're playing well. That's really good for me. Frederick next. Freddy the Nightmare. B tier. You don't see him very often, so I think we've how does the saying go? Distance makes the heart go fonder or something like that. I think that's with him. He used to be like lower down because you always see him. And he's like, he's always like Forever Freddy, Pop Goes a Weasel, these 2 add-ons that, Snapphobia, all that kind of stuff. Not fun. Nowadays, you don't see that too much, and you don't see him very often. So, yeah, D tier. Doesn't do much. He's not very powerful. You have a lot of interactions with him because he teleports around. Oh, yeah, B tier, I'd say. Pig. Oh, between B and C, you'd be higher up, but with recent changes, you find a lot of pigs just running the add-on that starts you off with Trapped in Your Head, and they start tunneling people at the game. They slow the game down too much. Full gen regression build. I'm going to put him in C tier. I really think it encourages now parts of the game that I don't enjoy. So I think it's only fair that I put him in like C tier. But I love the aesthetic of Pig. I like playing Pig and stuff like that. But yeah, I'm going to put him in C tier, I think. Myers is next. Myers can go up or down. If you punish yourself by going for the last killer tier list I made with the bad audio. I'm sorry about that again. Hopefully this one sounds better. But if you got through that, I picked Myers very up or down. So, normal, basic Myers, I'd probably put like S tier or A tier. I think he's very fun. The stealth, worrying about keeping him out of like tier 2 and tier 3. Adds a bit of gameplay dynamic to him. He's an M1 killer, which means he has to abide by the game mechanics. Adds a bit of danger if he gets into tier 3 with his instant ability. But then, if it's a Tombstone Myers or Infinite tier 3 Myers, then he drops quickly down to like a C tier because the fun factor goes out, the fact that he has such a bracket of like potential, so he can be like very strong if he gets to that point of being like Infinite tier 3 or Tombstone, or it can be very low or like fairly low if he's just doing these base mechanics. I don't like when add-ons make a character so like really strong when they were weak to start with. For me, add-ons should be like small buffs to the power, and that's it. That's as far as it should go. But for Myers, for me, breaks that mentality of what add-on should be about. What add-on should be about. Myers breaks that. For me, he's that killer with the add-ons that completely flip a game upside on its head. And for me, it doesn't feel good. So he's a C tier for me because of that potential. You can argue that I put Albert Wesker, even though my current view of him is kind of lower. But for me, Myers, I'm going to stick him in C tier based on like the respect of the add-ons he has. Oni next. I'm going to put Oni like A tier because he can be fun. He can be fun to outplay and stuff like that. But his power, once you start getting it, is very hard to put a stop to. And he has a lot of power, and a good Oni, which is what I'm kind of basing this on now. A good Oni will down you on most maps, as long as the RNG kind of is either 50-50 or killer favourable. But he's fun to face, and he abides by most of the rules and stuff like that. So yeah, I'm gonna put him in like a solid A, I reckon. If I see him, I'm not unhappy with the game, I will play it. Artist next. Subjective again, because I'm going to be talking about things that I might not have talked about other characters too much. But for me, Artist is just irritating. Power-wise, I don't find a power particularly that annoying. I think, yeah, he's one of those like anti-loop killers that make you press W, which is a bit bland, so that knocked it down a bit already, so off the bat. But I don't really find that too annoying, but it is annoying. But it's like a sound effects and stuff like that. I find her sound design, I find her look just genuinely irritating. Like, I don't find much about her where I go, she looks great, or she sounds amazing. Like Wesker, I'm going like, audio wise, great. Spirit just sounds eerie and stuff like that. Nemesis, cool. cool chase sounds, you know. Demo, you know, you can hear when he's like getting charged for a shred, and I think it sounds cool. And you know, his audio is really good and stuff like that. It looks cool. Artist, for me, looks awful. Isn't scary, just looks, no. Not a big fan of the design of her. And audio wise, just the sound she makes, good. Ugh, no, I'd rather hear like nails over a chalkboard than hear that stupid sound effect. I'm sorry if you like it, but for me personally, not a fan. D tier based on that, if I see her, I'm like, oh god, it's that cringy kind of, no, I'd rather not, thank you very much, leave it out. Clown, next. Oh man, I'm going to put in S tier, and this is very, very, very controversial. Very controversial, because it could easily be an A tier for me. But the controversy comes from most people wanting to like be C or D tier. So why is Clown S tier for me? And it purely comes down to where I see the game, or where it should be, I should say. For me, the game is most fun when you're interacting with killers, when you're in those chases, when that killer actually wants to kill you and not build pressure. Clown is that killer where if he sees you and you're in a chase, 9 times out of 10, I might say that quite a lot, but 9 times out of 10, you know you're in that chase for your entire allotment of health states. You, like, generally speaking, that Clown is after you because he knows that he can either use his bottles to down you quickly, or you're going to use those bottles to shred through pallets. So either way, he's getting something from the game and he'll keep on going after you. He's probably well aware that he might lose the game because he can't really pressure the generators. So for me, a Clown player has already accepted the fate that he's probably going to lose the game overall, but he's accepted the fact that he wants to be in chases, he wants to pursue people, and that's where I find him fun, and that's why he's S tier for, because I know I'm getting full interaction out of that killer. That's what I like. I don't like gen gameplay. So for me, Clown is the epitome. I can't even think of the word actually. You know what I'm saying? He's the he is the fundamental killer that gives you full interaction when you see him, and I like that. Similarly, Cannibal is also one of those where he's got minimal map pressure. So when you're in a chase with the Cannibal, you're going to have a long chase usually. That's fun. There's that potential of one hit down you. So he has that kind of he has that ramped up ego where even though he might get hit by a few pallets, he's going to most likely carry on going for these, might go around the pallet, try and use bloodlust against you and stuff like that. But because of that, you're getting longer chases, you're getting more interaction and stuff like that with the killer player, which I always say is amazing on a multiplayer game. That's what you want. On a multiplayer game, you want to face other players and interact with them. Gen gameplay, for me, doesn't do that. If you enjoy gen gameplay, this is not the killer tier list for you. Trapper next. Trapper is a D. A big old D. Big doo-doo. Why is Trapper a D for? Well, Trapper is a D because as much as I can say trap placement does involve skill, I don't like the idea that I can be running around a map or be in a chase with the killer and I am getting killed based on inanimate objects being placed on the floor. For me, that is an interaction. That isn't an interaction to me. That is either, you can either take it 2 ways, either very skillful play, which is like pot luck of where I'm running and stuff like that. He has limited traps. When I get caught out by a trap, I don't initially think, oh, great trap placement. I'm thinking, oh, bloody hell, what's the chance of that happening for me? I find it fun. I genuinely don't find being killed by trap placements fun for me. It's not dynamic, it's not enjoyable for me personally, and that's why subjectively he's down at D. Never have found him fun. I've never really had a really fun trapper match. I can't recall one match where I look back and I think, oh yeah, that's in like, you know, even the top 50 games of DBD I've ever had. I can't remember one trapper match that I've really enjoyed and gone, yeah, that's great. Even now I'm trying to think back as well. I can think back to a few games I've done before trapper, but I cannot honestly recall a match where I've gone, that stands out. no trapper game for me has ever stood out, and that's the problem. He's very, very bland. Don't enjoy him. Deathslinger next. Deathslinger has the same issue, pyramid head for me. I'm going to put him on B tier. Actually, I'm going to drop him down to C tier, actually. It's that M2, M1 gameplay that I don't like, but Deathslinger seems to do it more than most. He's slower than other killers, you have that bit of a chance, but because his projectile fires quicker, you seem to have less chance to dodge it than, say, like a pyramid head. You can't gauge it quite as much as a Nemesis, because a Deathslinger tends to be more patient with the shots, typically speaking. I just don't find him fun or engaging. I find you have high interaction with him like you do, like, say, Clown. The chaser can be quicker. But it's the lack of counterplay against his shots, I'd probably say, which put me off him. Yeah, I just don't really enjoy him. I don't enjoy facing him. When I see one, he's not quite bottom tier, so I'm not completely going, oh my god. But he's definitely not, like, you know, passable, where I'm like, could be either way. Deathslinger are typically one and the same. There's not much variance there with the player or the play style or anything like that. So he's like C tier, I just don't enjoy him. Wraith comes next. And I think Bing Bong Boy could easily be C for me, but I think I'll put him in B. There's just something about Wraith that I don't find that enjoyable to face. He's an M1 killer, you have plenty of interaction with him and stuff like that, yeah, but I don't know whether it's because he has some sort of map pressure and get around a bit quicker. I could find more gen regression stuff on him and stuff like that. But just something about him just puts me off a little bit. You know, when I see a Wraith, I'm not going, okay, all right. You know, I'm going, oh, bloody hell, it's a Wraith. I'm not really up for this too much. Something about him. I don't have to I can't really tell you what it is, but there's something about Wraith that just puts him down. I'm thinking, with him. And we're going to go now, double whammy, double S, on my two favourites to face, Huntress and Hillbilly. Huntress is a character that is ranged, which adds a new dynamic to it straight off the bat. And yeah, they're just great fun. You've got a counterplay. You can use different areas against them, different tiles against them. You can outthink them, try and outplay them. You can, you know, try and duck, dodge, dip, dive, whatever. And if you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a hatchet. Great bit of fun. I just really enjoy facing them. I really, really, really do. And like a great Huntress are very difficult to face. But you gotta love, like, you gotta respect the skill and stuff like that, you know, unless you're using a crosshair or something like that. But most don't, you know, the top tier Huntress players just learned and adapted to her. And they're just amazing, amazing people to come against. And I think it's really, really, it's a real showcase of what a killer player who really sets himself up to learn somebody can achieve. And I think that's amazing. I love them. Hillbilly's next. And Hillbilly used to be for me the gold standard of what a killer should be. All they need to do back in the day, behavior, all they need to do was adjust his add-ons, so you couldn't do Crack Billy or Instasaw Billy. Back in the day, you could put add-ons on, which would make his chainsaw either rev up almost instantly, aka Instasaw Billy, or you could do Crack Billy, which was you'd put an engraving on, which would make him move quicker, and then also put one of the faster charge speed add-ons on. So then you'd have a faster charge speed than base Billy, but it can like go really, really quick, so you can do like some insane curves around objects, stuff like that. All you need to do is get rid of those, and then Hillbilly was actually like a really fair, fun killer. Nowadays, people are put off by playing him because they're just better alternatives for a start. He has this stupid cooldown mechanic that he doesn't need or deserve, where he can only do like limited amounts of chainsaws, which makes no sense because there's killers that have a lot more higher potential to get hits in quicker than Hillbilly can get his single hit in, like Blight, but they're not given like a, you know, like a time, like, you know, a really long delayed time to get his power back. He doesn't have that. Hillbilly does that. Don't know why he does. I think it's a damn shame because he was like top tier. Don't know why I'm picking Billy's nose there, sorry. I don't know why they changed him like that for and gave him this stupid cooldown mechanic, which comes along with this sound effect, which makes him sound like he's got hemorrhoids and he just sat down. Like, Jesus Christ, man. Get the guy some preparation, H or something. Get that. Honestly, he is suffering. He needs to stop suffering, please. We need to save Billy. We need to save Billy. And I would love it one day if behaviour went alright. We'll knock away the cooldown mechanic. We'll get rid of that stupid sound effect we added to him. And that is Billy saved. That is Billy with... And more people will play him. All he needs is that potential to keep on using his chainsaw through a game. Which I might add, he's not overpowered at all. He deserves to be able to use his chainsaw throughout the game. He's an SS tier killer. For that potential of curving around objects and stuff like that, is a character that is, if somebody's really good, it makes a 50-50 situation in most like loops and stuff like that. You know, if it's a really good Billy player, a lot of loops and tiles and stuff like that, it's a 50-50 between you and that killer, which makes him amazing. That is the top tier of what a killer should be about. Fun, interactive, dynamic gameplay. Please save Hillbilly. But that is my tier list, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you can see where I was coming from. But most importantly, what are your subjective views of what makes a top tier killer? What is your SS tier killer? Let me know in the comments if you watch this video. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves, guys. Have a great day. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.